It's Monday night. We are on Thanksgiving week, but this is the Steps Edit podcast. Thank you all so much for joining me on tonight. For those of you who are watching live, good afternoon or good evening. For those of you who are watching me on the playback, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or whatever time it is when you decided to join in and watch the Steps Edit podcast. This is the Steps Edit podcast, and I am your host, Stephen B. I'm the host and resident expert, and I am the proprietor of this space of the internet that is the Steps Edit podcast. I'm so grateful that you all decided to join me on tonight. Listen, we have an amazing show lined up. I have a very, very good friend of mine. I would venture to say this guy is more than just a friend, but he is a mentor. At one phase of my life, we'll talk about all of that. I'm gonna wait till he get on before we start unfolding all of those pieces of the puzzle. But I am so excited to have him on the show tonight. I'm not going to delay the process. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on into the room. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage at this time, my man, 50 grand, the Maximus Wright, or as I like to call him, Maximilian.
Hey, brother, thank you for having me on.
Technical difficulties.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man. Thank you for having me on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Keep my signal. It's something going on with my signal. It keeps going in and out.
Okay.
So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and give you the room for a second while I make some technical tweaks. So I'm finna step away. Just talk to the people. Tell the people who you are, what you got going on. Tell them, give them a little bit of your pedigree, a little bit of your history, and then we'll jump into the reason for the show. Did you catch that? Uh-oh. Wrong
I
person. Hold on.
Okay.
Here we go. I don't know what we got going on tonight. This clearly this is gonna be a good show because we having to fight. I ain't never had to fight technical difficulties like this.
Okay.
This is this ain't nothing but the devil. The devil. All right. I think we good now. So come on, introduce yourself, and we're gonna talk about a couple things before we get into the book. I got some questions. Got some burning questions for you.
Okay. I'm Maximus Wright from Yazoo City, Mississippi. I am a filmmaker, and now I am taking my stab at being a novelist. And I have the great fortune of working with some of the most incredible people in the state. And we have an initiative through the Jackson Film Festival to create 100 filmmakers in the next 7 years. So, father, just a simple guy, man.
I'm laughing at this statement of I'm taking a stab at being a novelist, like you just started doing this, when in fact you have written. No, let me correct that. You have published 3 novels.
Mm.
We have Soul Damage.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the prequel to Soul Damage, which is My Name is Lola.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Prophet.
Yeah.
And I am privileged to say that I have had the opportunity to read all 3 of these.
Right.
And hands down, I stand 10 toes down when I say Prophet is my favorite novel. Second to the Bible. It is the best book I've ever read.
Man, you make me shake every time you say that.
Man, and I mean it every time I say it. Before I take it back, I add more to it.
The reason I say that I'm taking a stab at being a novelist, the first 2 books were kind of out of circumstance. It wasn't me trying to write a book. It was The first book, we ran out of money, and I had so much of the script left over that the team convinced me to go ahead and make this the book to get us over the finish line. And they were right. It did. That book helped us finish making the movie. And the prequel, Lola, was kind of
It
me
did.
because I didn't like the way someone interpreted one of the characters. And when we talk about Prophet, when I first wrote it, it was just really me trying to deal with some things. And after
Hmm.
your project and Esther Prada and a couple other folk, I went back and seriously, this was my first time really trying to write a novel, out of with the intentions
Understood.
of trying to make a novel. So that's why I say that.
Understood. So, my first question is, when are we going to start the Prophet Book Club, so that we can come together and we can get the people who have read the book and those who have some interest in it, so we can go ahead and jump in and start talking about the book. When are we going to start that?
I hadn't even thought that far. It was, I think it kind of got brought up with you and Esther, and you were talking about it, or she mentioned it because it seemed like you all are pretty in sync when it comes to this project. I don't know. We're gonna the books make it Wednesday for those of you who've been waiting for the book. The first shipment makes it here Wednesday, and we'll be out delivering through Thanksgiving, trying to get folks the book. So after we get enough people who may have interest in giving them a chance to read it, then I'm all for it. I'm all for doing a book club like we've done before.
So I'm making my platform available
Okay.
so we can bring people into the room, and we can break down the character. We can do character analysis, and we can talk about all of the people in the book. We can talk about all of those things. And so I'm really excited about the project. And then we have, and I'm gonna go ahead and just I'm gonna just go on and drop a shameless plug in.
For sure.
Uh, I have the privilege. Maximus and I are working right now on turning Prophet into an audiobook.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I am working on reading Prophet, not for my own pleasure, but I will be reading this book for other people to hear my voice, my melodious baritone voice, as I read Prophet. Thank God I know how to read.
And I actually listened to the rough of the first couple of pages, man. It really sounds good. It really sounds good. So,
Okay.
I'm even more excited now. And hopefully this
Good.
can be a early Christmas stocking stuffer. I'm gonna
That
put
would
the
be nice.
gonna
That
put the
would be
price
nice.
down so you can
I know,
have
right?
expecting this book to be finished before Christmas.
Yeah. 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 No pressure at all.
No,
No,
okay,
no
great.
pressure at all. This is the thing. Having been one who you and I have been walking this journey now, this creative journey for about right at 11 years, maybe 12 years going on.
Mhm.
And I'm excited that you said you want the audiobook to be completed by Christmas and not by Thanksgiving. Because normally those are the windows that I get. I get those very tight knit, very close. Yeah, I need this yesterday. But we tend to make things happen, so I appreciate it. So we're gonna talk about the book, and I'm excited to get into the book. But there's another initiative that you started that I actually want us to talk about. For any of the creatives who may be tuning in, or for those who may be listening into the show, you've started doing small mini sessions on dealing with writer's block.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
so let's dig into that a little bit. I think today you released the second installment, correct?
Mm, yes, I did. I did.
So if you can, just in a part one, part two, just kind of give me a high level breakdown of the things that you covered in those little segments.
Well, in part one, when we started talking about, writer's block, like what is one of the things that make you have writer's block is trying to edit while you're writing. It is the number one problem because your right brain is your creative side. So when you start going analytical, you're switching fears, and now you're going to the left brain. So if you're going back and forth between left brain, now they're fighting for dominance because you're trying to make sure, does it sound right? Is it grammatically correct? And once you do that, that's going to jam up those circuits in your brain. It's going to create writer's block. So the best thing to do is to write it freely. Don't try to edit. Just get the story out. You can't catch a fish. You can't clean a fish before you catch it. So your job is delivering that baby, and clean it up once the baby is here. You can't
That
clean
is the analogy that I love.
it. So one of the things that I always tell people is you write the first draft with your heart, you write the second draft with your head. So the first draft is getting the story out. So if you don't do that, it results in writer's block.
Right.
Today, the second segment of that was talking about what does your body have to do with writing. It has everything. Because if you're tensed in your body and these negative emotions are coming up when you write, you don't try to just push through that. You stop and address, well, why am I feeling this way?
Right.
Because your body is sending you a signal. The emotions are messages. And if you ignore them, they just get louder. And what they do is they disrupt the writing because there's something that you need to deal with that the writing is invoking. And once you, like, say, for instance, if you're afraid, you stop writing what you're writing on and you deal with that emotion and you say, why am I afraid?
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid because, and you just subconsciously let the pen take over until you deal with this. And once your body goes back to ease, then the flow will start back. So these are just some of the things that I've just been I've learned along the way, and I'm trying to pass some of these lessons along.
So when we talk about writer's block, is having been one who has started working on a couple of projects and got some things in the works that we're working on, details forthcoming. But when we talk about writer's block, is it just that moment where the words don't flow, or is it where the words just don't make sense?
It could be both. It could be where they don't flow, or it don't seemingly make sense in that moment because you're judging every word that comes out.
Okay.
Years ago, I had a writers conference, and this young lady wrote, and she said, and there the guy stood. He was chiseled in mahogany. His teeth were as ivory, and I was just lost in the gaze of him like sunshine, right? And she was like, "This is horrible," and I'm like, "What?" But in her mind, because she was judging herself, those words they were nothing. But to
Mm-hmm.
the people that was hearing it, they were like, "Oh my God, such imagery! It was beautiful with those
Yeah.
short words." But she was judging it based off her how cruel she analyzed herself. And so
Okay.
those are things that we have to get beyond. You got to stop because a lot of times when we're judging our work, it's really a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. And so now we're speaking to a deeper issue that we have to now change how you feel about yourself so these words can flow. Because a lot of times these words are flowing from a source deep within inside of you that I believe is connected to the creator. And you're
Yeah.
judging a gift that God has given you because you have low self-esteem and you feel so poorly and have low self-worth about yourself.
Interesting. So when we're talking about creatives, um, writer's block is not just limited to writing a book or writing a screenplay.
No.
Um, and I know as a graphic designer,
Mhm.
I have experienced. I've never relegated it as writer's block,
Mhm.
but you and I have had conversations where I'll say I just don't see it.
Mhm.
I just don't see it. I understand now, you and I having conversations, and then just kind of following this process with you, that it is writer's block. It's a form of
Mhm.
writer's block. I may not be putting pen to paper,
Mhm.
but bringing those images to the forefront, or bringing that imagery to life, so to
Mhm.
speak. Um, and so, yeah, I definitely understand. Um, when in being for me, because I'm doing so much, a lot of times it'll be I got so much going on that I got so many other things going on in my head, that it just takes a moment for me to filter through everything else that I got going on to get to the actual graphic that needs to be done.
Mhm.
So when you talk about the way your body, paying attention to your body, how do you work through those? So if I'm tense, what do I do? If I'm feeling a tightness in my chest, call 911. If you feel a tightness in your chest, don't play with that. It could be a heart attack. It could be gas, but okay. But all after doing all of the physical checks, and I know, my physical health is pretty solid, then what do I do to get through the stressors? Am I making sense?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Okay.
I want to go back to, you said it's writer's block. It's more apropos for other areas. It's called performance anxiety.
Mm,
It is the anxiety, of actually performing.
okay.
So more when you start asking about your question, well, how do you relax? Your body, we cannot perform in a state of survival. So when we're in fight or flight, it is hard to create. It's very difficult to create. And a lot of times we're creating and we're afraid that we're going to be judged. Some of us may be creating for a living. And if you're creating for a living, that brings a whole lot of pressure, because now you're saying, okay, if I don't get this done, I don't get paid. If I don't get
Hmm.
paid, how are we going to take care of these bills and feed the kids? So I know a lot about it. So your question is, how do you come out of that? When you're tensed, you feel that you're in danger, whether it's real or imagined. If you're writing about a trauma, that trauma can take you right back to that place where you were that you were writing about. So what you have to stop and do is assure your inner being that they are safe.
Hmm.
Sometimes you have to stop and say, you're safe. You have to be truthful about what you're feeling. And a lot of times what stops us is that we won't be honest. A lot of times we're ashamed to admit that I'm terrified, or that writing about these emotions are making me deal with memories that I've tried to suppress or I don't want to deal with.
Hmm.
Or this situation reminds me of other situations where the family was depending on me and I didn't come through, and the graphics didn't get it, or the books didn't sell, or the film didn't, the box office was horrible. And you have to really sit with yourself and assure yourself that you are safe, that you're not in that place. It's about, you have to ground yourself just like a person normally would who's having a panic attack.
Mm,
And we don't realize that those things go hand in hand with your artistic gifts. You have to
right.
ground yourself.
Interesting. Interesting. So let's go ahead and turn the corner
Okay.
and let's talk about profit.
Okay.
Um, hands down, hands down,
Yeah.
the best piece of literary work that I have read, excluding the Bible.
Why do you say that, man? Because that is wild every time you say it.
I I want to dig into it, but I don't want to dig into it too much because I don't want to spoil it for people who read it. Um, or for those who will purchase the audio book, and will be listening to it. But it's something about it. It page one. You had me at page one. This is the this is the funny part about Prophet. This is actually the third release
Yes.
of Prophet.
Hmm.
I've had the privilege of working with you on all three releases. And the first time when we were doing this, what, 5, 6 years ago, 4 or 5,
4 or 5, maybe.
a few years ago,
Right.
um, I had the hardest time working on the edits because I caught myself reading the book. And so I had to go through and complete a chapter reading it before I could go back and look at, okay, how are these margins set? Do I have any unnecessary spaces? Is all of the punctuation there? Because I'm like, literally, this book got me around my throat. People who know me know I do not like to read. I'd rather go to the movies.
Hmm.
I have read Prophet 4 times just because I like to read it. It's just a good read.
Mm.
And again, I do not like to read. I love to read my Bible, and that's it. That's I. You know, when people have you read this book? I don't. It is the grace of God that I graduated from high school with the grades that I graduated with because I did not do those book reports because I did not read those books. And I got my credentials now, so y'all can't come back and take them from me. It's been 30 years. I'm sure we have missed that statute of limitation. I ain't do those book reports. I didn't. I don't know how I made it through,
Mm.
but I made it out all right. In the words of John P. Key, I made it out all right.
Right.
And so to get back to the point, it's just a good read. Now I'm gonna put it back in your hands, but just for those of you who are listening and for those of you who are watching, two things. Number one, I encourage you go to you can get it on Amazon. They can go to your website, correct?
Yes.
And place order maximuswright.com.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Maximus.
See, I'm doing good. I did my research. So go to the website, go to Amazon, order the book. It is a great read. However, do not let the name of this book fool you. This is not a church manual. This book is not about how to flow in the prophetic. This book is not the school of the prophets. This book is not 10 steps to prophesying. This is not that book. It is a novel.
A graphic.
It is a graphic novel. Okay. The title of the book is Prophet, but it's some cussing in the book. It's some cussing on page 1. But if you can get past yourself, I'm telling you, the book, there is a degree of as I sound churchy here, there is a degree of deliverance that you can get from the book if you are open to just accept the book for what it is. My child just walked in and she couldn't up. I'm put on camera in a second. But yeah, so all right, so come on, talk to us. Give us the rundown. Talk about
Well, Prophet, it is, growing up like I did, I felt like I lived in a dichotomous world, because we grew up holiness and we was in church all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We got out those doors, there was a real mean street out there waiting on us. And, and living in my neighborhood and going to school, that was a challenge. And then as I got older, everyone is in love with The Forge, and I think it's a great movie. And of course, I love it because Aspen Kennedy, who's the lead, he went to Jackson State, and he was in my first movie. It was his first time being in a movie. My first movie, Soul Damage. So for no other reason than that, I love the film.
Yeah.
It wasn't my life. The mentors and the people I had, they were ex pimps who had found Jesus, and people who had been out there in the world in a very different way, who didn't grow up like that. So they came with all that baggage. They brought that to Jesus. And that world was very colorful, to say the least. It was very
Right.
colorful. But they were some of the most gifted, but yet most complicated people that I've ever known. And this is kind of speaking to what I saw, what I grew up with, my experiences.
Right.
And trying to reconcile it, even as an older man now, did not have a father figure in the house, wanting one. And these were the people that I was looking to for mentorship. And just, the blessings and the curse that come with that. And how do you heal from it? And this book started out as me writing to try to to forgive some people that I felt had hurt me, as a mentor. And this book was a result of it.
So what you're saying is the people in this book, you know these people.
Everybody
It,
knows these.
it, so this is so it's fiction, but
Mhm.
it is loosely based on a true story.
Yeah, it's inspired. It's inspired. You know, it's not their stories, but they most definitely inspired these
Yeah.
stories. Yeah.
So give us a high level rundown of what the book is about.
The book is about a young man who's a journalist, an award-winning journalist, and he's on an expose to investigate fallen preachers. Now, what is interesting is what is about to happen, in the kingdom at this moment. But
Yeah.
he was on an expose to with fallen preachers getting their stories, trying to figure out what happened. And he really didn't believe, he really didn't believe in all this prophecy stuff. He didn't believe in these people who say they were men of God. He just thought they were all con artists.
Mhm.
And it really kind of stemmed from some of the pain that he had because his father was a preacher that abandoned him and his mother because he said God told him to do it. You
Wow.
know,
Yeah.
so he had this stuff in his heart, and he was on his mission to tear down as many preachers as he possibly could. By exposing them, by showing them, you know, none of them are good, none of them are right. So he had vengeance in his heart, and he came across this one guy by the name of Earl Humphreys who considered himself to be a prophet, and he was thinking it's another interview, and this wound up being an incident that changed his life
Yes,
in
it
a
did.
way that was profound. That both of them found something that neither one of them were looking for. So the story, it is a very entertaining story of self-discovery. It's a very entertaining story of forgiveness, and it is an entertaining story of growth. Becoming your authentic self in spite of. So
Yeah.
that's what I think the book is about.
Yeah. Now, another interesting fact about this is about 2 years ago, um, we started a journey in turning profit into a movie.
Mhm.
Um, we had some things to happen, and situations being what they were.
Mhm.
Uh, but for me, and again, being able to just kind of be on set, to be in the space, it was interesting to me to watch the pieces of this puzzle that I've read on paper several times now come to life, um, and the creative energy that was behind it.
Mhm.
And so, thankfully, I have a scene in there, so I ain't have to show up and start unplugging stuff and tearing up the set. Uh, 'Cause I did tell you, you know, I, I ain't playing.
Yeah, you made it very clear.
I will tear all this stuff down. I'm messing up cameras. I can't afford. Well, no, let me correct that. I'm gonna tab everything I can afford to replace. Okay, so I'm throwing all them paper cups all over the parking lot. But it was interesting to see. So, is there a possibility of that, being reworked?
Possibly, I would have to start from scratch. I wasn't where I needed to be when we were doing the project, and we really just kind of used it as a training tool.
Hmm.
And that's basically what it was. If we would have got something good out of it, in my opinion, then of course we would have shared it. But it was more of a training tool for some of the young filmmakers I was working with. But in that space creatively, I wasn't ready to birth that project at
I
that
was
time.
hoping I was hoping the trailer was out there somewhere because I was gonna pull it, but it's not out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the 100, 500, 700.
No, the 100 is a commitment over the course of 7 years of us training 100 filmmakers. We believe that it is so important that we tell our own stories. And now with the advent of cameras being being cheaper and people able to shoot films on their iPhone, we don't have the excuse of why we can't make projects. So what we're trying to do is lead that initiative to give our children an opportunity to see that this is something they could do. I
Yeah.
didn't know I could be a filmmaker growing up. I didn't know I could be a writer growing up because the people I saw were farmers and mechanics, and this was something that just wasn't in that world. So I would want my kids, I would want your children and your grandkids eventually when we get to that point that they know that this is a viable option. And the way to do that is by creating a culture. And that's what we're doing.
Okay, so let's go back and talk history. Because you mentioned that you never thought you would be a filmmaker. You never thought about being a writer. So I do know that you are a graduate
Mhm.
of Tougaloo College.
Yes.
Tougaloo Eagle Queen, we love thee. Mother Eagle, stir thy net. Okay. Stop because Candace gonna be watching this and she gonna try to get me. So what did give us like what were you studying? Like what were you if you were not going to be a writer, what were you going to be?
um, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. So when I came, once I got into my humanities major and I started taking the upper level English courses, I thought that I was getting prepared for law school. So I was in a humanities program that was focused on philosophy and religion, logical thinking, you know, and English because I thought that was going to prepare me to be writing briefs.
Mm,
Little did I know I would be writing for a living. I didn't think I had the ability to do that, because coming through high school, I knew I had a weakness with grammar. I had a weakness in the writing, in my opinion. And what I realized was is that just I was a great storyteller, and you can hire people to help you edit, and that's what I found
right,
out. So just because I had a weakness in one area did not mean that I could not be a writer. And there's a
right.
difference in people who are writers and people who are storytellers. There are difference because there are a lot of great writers out there, but some people are not great storytellers. And what I have ascribed to be more than anything is a great storyteller. And I keep employing people who edit because we need it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I thought I was going to be a lawyer, man. That's what I thought.
Yep. And then you started doing a whole lot of other stuff.
A whole lot of other stuff. Yeah.
Man was selling defibrillators, wheelchairs.
Everything that I did, once I became a filmmaker, everything made sense. Because when you become a filmmaker, it requires everything that you have.
Hmm.
Because you have to show up and be so many things at one time, whether there's a minister or a counselor or a friend, an actor, a bad guy, psychologist or a therapist, a business owner, a villain, whoever you got to be, you have to bring all those skill sets.
Yeah.
Film set. So it was the one place that all my gifts made sense. I wasn't great enough to be a musician, even though I wrote songs. But
And you did.
you have to have enough to say, okay, this is how this score is supposed to be. You
Hmm.
know, you got to know how to sell. So I spent a lot of my adult life being a salesman because when
Yeah.
you're raising funds and you're trying to convince these people to buy into your idea, you got to be able to sell that vision. Even ministry. People are coming to the set with all kinds of stuff, and you are moving them emotionally. So how do you move them from one emotional state to the other? And that's what ministry is about. That's what ministering or preaching
Right.
is about. A lot of times, moving people from one emotional state to the other, from hopelessness to hope. And you have to have that ability to do it on a film set if you want to get people to those places to make this realistic.
Yeah. All of the above. All of the above. It when you start firing on all cylinders and it starts to click,
Yes.
then it starts to make sense.
Mhm.
All right. So tell us, what else you got on your plate? What's on the horizons for Maximus Wright?
Well, we got a lot of work, man. We are literally about to announce a casting call on December the 14th and 15th for um, a TV pilot, and we'll be auditioning in Brookhaven and Vicksburg, Mississippi. Brookhaven on the 14th, Vicksburg on the 15th. This is about From Darkness to Light. This is the life story of Miss Colleen Sanders. So
Okay.
yeah, so that is fresh off the press. So we'll be making that announcement in the next couple of days.
Hey, you heard it here first on
You
the
did,
Step City podcast.
you did.
Breaking
So
news.
December the 7th, we have a all-day workshop with the Girl Scouts. It's called Film Like a Girl. So the Girl Scouts will be up for 2 badges. One will be in screenwriting, the other will be in filmmaking. So this is the first time I've ever
Oh,
done that. I am so grateful that the Girl Scouts thought enough of me, a boy.
yeah.
And trust me, with
Yeah,
our most precious cargo. And there are some young women that are going to be assisting me because I think, representation is important. And
absolutely.
they'll be assisting me while we do this workshop. And these Girl Scouts will be earning 2 badges, So we have a residency that looks like we'll be doing with the Mississippi School of the Arts that will
Okay.
coincide with the filming in Brookhaven in February for Black History
Okay.
Month. And we got a couple of projects that we can't really say just now because we're waiting for the deals to sign. But we're doing what we're doing, and but most importantly, right now, we're pushing this book and
Absolutely.
get this book in the hands of people. And so the first shipping to be in Wednesday, and hopefully we'll have an audiobook coming out in December.
Hopefully, we will have an audiobook coming out in December. I'm really excited about this. I, I've always people have always told me that I have a voice for radio. On one hand, that's my way of people telling me that I'm hard to look at. Be like, boy, you got a voice for radio. That
Now,
mean y'all telling me I ain't got a face for TV? What y'all saying?
if they said you had a face for radio, then they're
That's
absolutely.
a different conversation. I got you. I got you. But I've had people to tell me, you're in the wrong business, man. You need to be on the radio. You need to be and then when I'm hosting events now, I do, my entertainment things and those things that I have that I enjoy doing. Um and I remember uh I think it was 3 years ago at the film festival, and I got up to present one of the awards. And a young lady who has become a very good friend of mine, um, Jahan, came up to me afterwards and she said, "Man, I wanted you to read all them categories. Man, forget everybody else. Bring him back up there and let him do all the categories."
Right, right.
And so shout out to my mama who would not let us do, as she called it, flat talking.
Mm,
Mama used to tell us we could not say this or that. It is this or that.
hmm
Um, and so we had to make sure we articulated all of our words and we pronounced all of our words. And then, as a vocal performance major, um, I I had to hone my instrument.
mm,
Um, and so, I've just learned how to use my voice.
mm.
And so I'm excited to be a voice on the audiobook, or
Right.
and in this case, be the voice
Yes.
of the audiobook.
Right. Right.
Um, so I was going through and I was reading it and I was like, oh wait, I did that wrong. I got to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is a process.
Mm-hmm.
It is a process. And then, we got the edits and all of that. We're not gonna bore the people about talking about that tonight.
Yes. Yes.
But I'm excited about it. I'm excited about everything that you've got going on. I'm glad you carved out some time on your schedule to be on the show.
Mhm.
This is the third installment. This is the third time you've been on my show. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
this third time. Oh, you becoming a regular. You you becoming a regular. Y'all gonna be seeing him once a month.
Mm.
But this is exciting. I can say, as a person who has sat under the things that you've taught, and then more than that, our one-on-one conversations, you have definitely been not just a friend to me, but a mentor. You have been the voice of reason. Lord have mercy. I'm not even gonna get into some of the other conversations that we've had that have nothing to do with creatives, uh but it's creative conversation.
That it is.
um but there have been times when I've been in some real dark places, and I appreciate just the friendship that we've had because you've been able to just kind of either encourage me by words or reach down and pull me up by my neck and be like, Wait, I can't say that on here.
No.
Oh, I can't. But yeah, you say what you say, and it just kind of helps jolt me, back into a place of my right mind. Um, I can say I am the best version of me. Um, then I am the best version of me right now.
Mm.
And when I go back and look at the edits to the Book of Stephen, Maximus Wright has a pen in there.
Oh
And
man.
so I am appreciative. I support everything you do. So anytime you want to come on the show or anytime you want to promote or anything you want to do, just give me a call. Let me know. If you call me on Tuesday and say I need to be on the show yesterday, we're gonna make it happen. And then when I tell you I need you to be on the show and you ask me if I'm gonna promote it and I say yes, and then you call me and say, "Are we still on?" And I was like, "Man, look, I ain't had time to do no flyer. I've been doing all this, dot, and dot." Um, and so, if I have any listeners who want to volunteer to be a publicist or a social media uh, person, and the key phrase is volunteer right now because we don't have a budget on the Steps Edit podcast, but we are working to get to that end. And
Okay.
so, yeah, we just trying to get some help. But man, thank you so much for coming on to the show. Any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to say to the people before you go?
Well, I do want to tell people, it's never too late to have a happy childhood, and I am living the best life I have ever had. I never imagined that my life would be this dope, and it absolutely is. And it's not because I don't have problems. I have problems just like everyone else. But when I said yes to God and say, "Hey, I'm gonna live out my calling as a filmmaker," it was the best decision I've made. It has taken me places I never thought it would take me. It has introduced me to people, but more importantly, it has given me a confidence in who I am and authenticity that I like who I've become. And so I encourage anyone that if it's been in you as a child to be a writer, if it's been in you to do any of those things, it's not too late. I was 40 when I started filmmaking, and everyone thought I had lost my mind. Everyone, no one believed that this was possible. Yeah, Steph, you can raise your hand. Everyone thought I had lost my mind, but I knew that was something I could not rest. And I knew that this was a very pivotal time in my life. And if I didn't strike then, I'd have another 40 years to find out.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I did. And the Bible says the wisdom shall be proven of his fruit, of his children. And the fruit and the children that are here, it bared me out that I did hear from God and that this was the right move. So I encourage you to trust the still small voice and go forward.
And I will say, I remember that conversation when you and I connected, and you told me, you said, "Man, I'm writing a movie."
Mm.
Okay, when you say writing a movie, you mean you you mean you writing a play? Because we know plays.
Yeah.
He was like, "No, I'm writing a movie." And in the initial part of that conversation, I can honestly say I didn't believe it. But then you started reading it. And the moment you started sharing, because it was in a green notebook, one of them green three-prong.
Right.
It was in a three-prong notebook. You had notebook paper in there because
Yeah.
you it
Yeah.
was folded up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you opened it up and you started reading it, and I was like, this this man. And I wanted more. And I wanted you. And when you got to the end of it, and I'm like, no, no, wait, what happens next? They're like,
Right.
well, I hadn't written it yet. Well, what you waiting on? Get to writing. Um, and so at that point, you had my buy-in.
Wow.
At that point, after, and they say seeing is believing. At the moment you completed your first film, you are a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Well, no, correction. The moment you start your first film,
Mm-hmm.
you are a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And so,
I do want to, because I feel they had to say this because somebody's going to catch this at the end. I want to talk about the ridiculousness of it. You know, I had no experience. Not only did I not have any experience, I didn't even know anybody who did this. There was nobody I could get on the phone and call. I had no contacts, and the biggest thing is I had no money to do it.
yeah.
And now I have estranged my support system because they like, now you've been wild before, but this is the wildest thing that you're talking about. Because you're talking about leaving your job. You're talking about leaving the thing that provides income and focus on this. But all I knew was I could not sleep at night because this story kept waking me up and saying I had to write it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was first writing this, I wasn't writing this to get rich. I wasn't writing this to make money. I was writing this so I could go to sleep at night. So these characters were waking me up, and I was just recording what they were telling me in that little green notebook, which meant I didn't know how to format a script. I didn't even know how to I didn't know how to do any of the stuff. I didn't know how to do any of that. I was Googling and taking a look at it and just putting it together. I had no idea what font you're supposed to be writing in. I wasn't even on a computer. I wasn't even typing it. It was in a notebook, like you said, with pages folded up.
Handwritten.
Handwritten. I mean, even when I did transfer it, I still didn't know how to format the project. I didn't even know what a cover page was. I cannot express to you the ridiculousness of the ignorance that I had. But all I knew was that voice inside of me was saying, this is what you need to do. So it was pure passion that was driving me, and I was seeking peace. And this was an attempt to try to heal my soul through the words of this script. And all I had was that. And once I finished, then it was time to bleed for the next thing. And the next thing was, okay, now you got to make it. And that's a whole nother story.
Oh, that's another show altogether.
But the secret to making anything happen is that you start where you are, you use what you got, and you finish what you start.
And those are the three tenets that you have always stood on.
Yeah.
Is that the right word? Tenet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You've always said, start where you are, use what you got, and finish what you start. Even if you're using a camera that you bought on time, using an iPad. But it is one of the resounding phrases that I think it fits the journey that I have seen you walk is from the movie Field of Dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna paraphrase the phrase because in the actual movie, the phrase is, "If you build it, he will come."
Absolutely.
But I will paraphrase because we recently had a conversation where you the one you can look through muddy water and see dry land. But if you build it, it's like you've always said, if I build it, it'll come. And miraculously, you've sold out you sold out theaters. The first time we did the Soul Damage play, it was standing room only. When you premiered the movie, you sold out one of the larger theaters at Malco. I have seen you make this thing happen time and time again. And I have watched you learn along the way.
I kind of grimace a little bit when we say those statements because it makes it seem like I had something special. Like I was something special. I did not know what I was doing so badly that when we were on set, the people who did know laughed at me. I didn't know how to make the calls at first. I remember when we got ready to do the play, and Tamara Dog, God rest her soul, girl who was my main nemesis when we were in high school. I was in the parking lot there at the post office, and I was getting ready to say, I'm about to quit because we ain't sold a single ticket. And she came up and sat from her car. She didn't even get out of her car. She just started calling people over to her car and selling tickets for me. She said, look, go on, support him. Go on, get this ticket. And that's what turned the tide. You know, when we had the screening at Malco, I didn't even know if anybody was going to show up. Not at all. And I'm talking about, you talking about anxiety because you already broke. And you up here like you didn't put it out here. You don't even know what's going to happen. And there was a guy, I can't think of his name, Kevin. His name is Kevin. I can't think of Kevin's last name right now. He showed up 2 days before the premiere, and the people called me saying, hey, there's a guy up here trying to get a ticket to see Soul Damage. And you got to realize this was several days up until that, and none of the tickets weren't really moving. So I went up there and got him and got one ticket, and I'm like, okay, God, thank you. We got one person. And then over days, it just sold out. Mm-hmm. So I don't want people to think like, okay, oh, he just got something I don't have. The only thing I had was I was in such a desperate place to believe God. I didn't have no choice. I didn't have no other backup. I didn't have no other alternative. And it was either, God, you're going to either do this and we make it, or we finna be real shamed.
Yeah.
So don't think there weren't any hardships, but there were plenty of hardships.
Oh, yes.
There were plenty of hardships. But because I stayed faithful to the cause, those miracles happened. And it wasn't because I got something you don't have. I got the exact same thing you have if you just stand 10 toes down in what you believe God has called you to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. And I stand 10 toes down that Prophet is the best book that I have read outside of the Bible. And I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to keep saying it until y'all believe me. Prophet is the best book that I have ever read outside of the Bible. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. I am going to gift a copy of the book to one of my listeners. It will be, and will you autograph the copy?
Absolutely.
My listener.
Absolutely.
Okay. So it will be an autographed copy. This is what you have to do in order to get the book. You have to share this post, and for every person that shares, you can share it on YouTube or you can share it on Facebook. Unfortunately, once we stop on Instagram, it will not archive, and I still got to figure out how to get that. But if you share the post on Facebook or you share this post on YouTube, for those who share it, I'm going to put your name in a hat, and I will draw your name, and whoever, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna do two. I'm feeling very I'm feeling generous. So I'm gonna do two. So two people will get a copy of Prophet from the Steps Edit podcast for Christmas. Share this post, share this live, and I'm gonna say everybody who shares it, I'm gonna find your name, I'm gonna pull your name, and we're gonna do it. Because I believe in the project and it's gonna be good. Now, reader discretion is advised. Okay, if y'all listen, the book goes live on page 1. If I may, opening scene. Young man is in a room. He's about to pray. Young lady comes out of the bathroom. Says, "Oh, you praying? That's so sweet." She kneels down and prays with him. She fresh out the bathroom. She kneels down and she prays with him. And if you want to know what happens next, you're going to have to read the book. But they do pray.
They do pray.
Read the book. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, my man, 50 grand. I call him Maximilian. Everybody else, they refer to him as Maximus Wright. Y'all, come on, give it up. Thank you again for being on the show. You can purchase the book. Now I'm gonna do 2 free copies, but you know you got you know what you got to do to get the copies of the book. You can go on Amazon or you can go to www.maximuswright.com. And you can purchase the books there. Also, any other information that anything else about anything else that he has coming up, I'm sure is on the website. His contact information, if you want to book him, he is available for conferences and birthdays and bar mitzvahs, and he will. Let me stop. I don't know if he's available for any of those things, but you do want to go ahead and jump on and support. Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Instagram. Instagram has cut my string.
Oh,
So yeah, after 1 hour, Instagram cut me off.
okay.
That's my first time seeing it, and I know I have been on longer than an hour before, so this must be something new. But there you go. I have I gotta put this up. This is my guy right here, very good friend of mine from elementary school. As a matter of fact, his mom, it was my 5th grade teacher. He just bought the book on Amazon.
Thank you so much.
That's my guy, Isaac Clayton. I don't know if he wanted me to tell his real name because on here he big country. And so thank you, Ike, so much for the support. I'm excited about what's coming up. I'm excited about it. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is my guy, Maximus Wright. Y'all give it up for him. Thank you again for joining me on the Step Set It podcast. Thank you so much to my guest, Maximus Wright, for being with me on tonight. Listen, y'all, please follow me across all social media platforms. I am Step Set It on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat. Across all platforms, I am Step Set It. Thank you for those of you who have joined in to be a part of this conversation. Once again, I'm asking everybody to go in, share this post, and for every person that has shared the post, I will put your name in and you will be entered into a drawing to receive a free copy of Maximus Wright book, Prophet. Also, y'all please like, share, and subscribe. We are still cleaning up some things on the website. I ran into some technical issues with the streaming platform that I had before, and so I've started a new platform. And a part of that process is a lot of taking the time to, because now I got to write code and all of that. But thankfully I know how to do it. It's just taking the time to go ahead and get her done. To those of you who are watching, happy Thanksgiving. Please, I'll be sharing some of my trade secrets on some of the things that I'll be doing for Thanksgiving. I may do a pop-in show maybe Tuesday or nope, tomorrow's Tuesday. That's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen Wednesday. It may be Wednesday evening, or I may drop some reels or something like that. But you all just stay tuned, pay attention. I appreciate you all so much for taking the time to hang out with me. Once again, this is the Steps At It podcast. You all please share this information, get the information out, let everybody know what's going on. And if anybody asks you where you get your information, you know what to tell them. Steps At It. Y'all have a good night. We'll see you next week.